Welcome to Cooking with Qunoot. Today I'm going to share a chunky guacamole recipe. For this recipe we need 2 avocados, 1½ small tomatoes, 1 small onion, a jalapeno, a stalk of cilantro, half a lemon, salt, and black pepper. To get this started, you have to make sure to start with a good avocado. To ensure you have a good avocado, you want to give it a little squeeze, make sure it's not too soft, make sure it's not too firm. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this avocado lengthwise, right down the middle. Twist it as you're cutting it. I'm going to twist it off. The seed's going to be on one side. What I'm going to do, put my knife in the seed. You need to put a little bit of muscle into this. It comes right out. Toss that aside. So now we can go ahead and slice up our avocado lengthwise. I cut it twice, and I'm going to cut it the other way. This will ensure that I can scoop it out properly when I use a spoon to take it out. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead, I already have some of the avocado chopped up and put into the bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of this avocado, scoop it right out into the bowl. And this ensures that you don't smash up any of your avocado, and this is done as efficiently as possible. So our next ingredient that we're going to add to this is a small onion that I have already diced up. I'm going to add that into the ingredients. I'm going to add in 1½ tomatoes. This is half tomato. I already cut up one of the tomatoes, but I want to show you that you're not going to slice these up too thin because you want the guacamole still to be chunky, and the tomato's gonna give you that texture that you're looking for. So we're going to leave these fairly chunky. You see they're fairly big pieces. They're not too small. The tomatoes are going in there with the juice and all. The juice is actually going to help to make the guacamole a tad bit creamier. Okay, so the next ingredient we have is the jalapeno. I'm going to go ahead and cut the stem off. Don't want that in there. I'm going to cut it lengthwise. Okay, once we open up the jalapeno, you're going to see that you have the seeds and the stem. You want to take both out to ensure that your guacamole is not overly spicy, because the spiciest portion of this pepper is actually the stem inside. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out. Make sure you don't touch your eyes or anything else like that while dealing with a jalapeno, because that's always disastrous. Okay, if some of the seeds get into your guacamole, it's okay. It's not going to ruin your whole guacamole. It's just going to be 1 spoonful or 2 spoonfuls of a little extra spice. Okay, so now that they are both out, you can see that it's fairly clean. Make sure you didn't get any seeds on your knife or your hand. Now what I always do with the jalapeno, you see it's a little rounded, and what you want to do is flatten it out. So I always flatten my jalapenos out so it makes it a lot easier to cut up. So I'm going to cut these lengthwise. You can cut these fairly thin if you don't want too much kick in your guacamole. I like my spoonfuls to be a tad bit spicier, so I leave my chunks pretty big. I don't mince it necessarily. Okay, so now that we have them all cut lengthwise, we'll go ahead, mince it in fairly decent sized portions. They're not too chunky where it'll ruin a spoonful of guacamole, but you'll definitely taste the jalapeno in there. Okay, awesome. This is all cut up and ready to go. I'm going to add this to our bowl. There you go. Our next ingredient is the cilantro. Now you can see this is a fairly large stalk of cilantro, so I'm only going to use about half of this. So I'm going to just chop the top half off and leave this in here. So I'm going to try my best to use most of the leaves and get it into the guacamole, and try to avoid the stems, but if the stems get in there, it's really not a big deal. It's just going to be a tad bit of a different texture in there. So I'm going to crunch up the cilantro just like that with my hand, and just make very small slices of the cilantro in there. So even if the stem gets in there, it's so small, it's sliced so thin, you can barely tell. Okay, you can see obviously this I don't want in there, so I'm just going to toss that to the side. And that's how our cilantro should be. I'm going to add this to the recipe, add this to our bowl. That's probably going to be about a cup of cilantro, maybe 3/4 cup to a cup. Okay, we got our cilantro in the bowl. We need our lemon. Our lemon is definitely going to help create the guacamole to make it creamy, so it's not too hard to stir in. Okay, So sometimes if you have a rough lemon, all you need to do, rub it out on the table, okay? That's all you need to do is make your lemon a little bit softer so it's a little bit more easier to deal with. Now we're going to use the juice of half a lemon. So I'm going to make sure that I don't see any seeds. I don't see any seeds right on top. So I'm just going to squeeze this lemon and keep my hand on the bottom of it to ensure that none of the seeds get into the bowl. Okay? Just like that, you see I'm catching most of the seeds in my hand. If some of the seeds get into the guacamole, don't worry about it. Just pick it out at the end. If you see it, if you don't, somebody will notice it. They'll take it out themselves. Okay, so that's the majority of it. You know what? This actually looks like quite a bit of tomato and cilantro and guacamole. So I'm actually going to add the other half of this lemon. I think it's going to be easier to cream it. There you go. Seems about enough. There's all the seeds in my hand, okay? So we can put both of those to the side, toss the seeds out. Now all we need to do is add in our salt and pepper. It's going to take about a fourth of a teaspoon of black pepper. So I'm just going to mix that in. You can eyeball it. You can use it. You can actually use teaspoons and fourth teaspoons if you want. Not much of the measure sometimes. So I'm going to eyeball it. We're going to do about half a teaspoon of salt. There we go. And now I'm going to incorporate all of this. So let me just move this cutting board to the side. All right. So now that everything's in the bowl, I'm going to incorporate all of these ingredients evenly. Now what you want to do is make sure that some of the avocado pieces are creamy and leave some of them whole, okay? So I'm going to smash some of the pieces with my spoon, and then I'm going to avoid some of the other pieces. So this will take a little time to get the creamy but chunky texture that you're looking for, but you will find it. Gotta put a little bit of muscle into it, but eventually, big pieces like this, you definitely want to smash up to make it creamy, because that is going to create a lot of the texture that you're looking for. Okay, now you can see how some of the pieces are still whole, but now you have this creamy texture. You can almost hear it. You can almost hear it somewhat. You can hear it kind of moist, a little bit of liquid in there. So we have all of our ingredients incorporated. This is what your guacamole should look like. If you taste this and feel that you want more salt or pepper, you can always add that in the end. If you want more information on the nutritional background of this healthy recipe, you can visit my website, QnootSharafi.com. I've tried this recipe out at numerous occasions, and it's always been a hit. This recipe is not only delicious, but it's low in carbs, low in calories, and high in good fats. So try this out if you want more recipes. You can also visit my website for that. If you feel that you have a healthy recipe that you want featured in my videos, my newsletter, or on my website, feel free to contact me personally. Definitely give this recipe a try. Thank you for watching, and enjoy.